certified trainer, performance, mentoring, monitoring, and assessment trainer from the International Finance Corporation Learning and Performance Institute. He also benefited from a certified training of trainers in local fundraising for the Change the Game Academy, seeking to empower grassroots organizations to mobilize resources to support their sustainability and increase their social impact. Frank is a digital adoption champion for non-profit organizations, and we are excited to have him on board today to join us to discuss how we are going to manage and maintain a conducive digital workspace. So, Mr. Frank Sombo, you are welcome to today's session.
Hi, good afternoon, Nancy, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be part of the conversation this afternoon. It's an open conversation, and we'll invite input, comment, and feedback from each and everyone during this engagement. So my name is Frank Sombo, as Nancy has mentioned, and I head the Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning unit at WAXI, and I'm also the program manager for our Techsoup technology donation program. I'll put off my video for the sake of the bandwidth so that we can all have a very interactive and free-flowing conversation. Okay, so the topic that brings us together this afternoon has to do with managing and maintaining a conducive digital workspace. And one can be wondering what we mean by a conducive or a productive digital workspace. So we'll go through some basic fundamentals regarding the topic and how to get ready for moving remotely. Then we'll talk about some of the factors that make up a conducive and productive workspace. Today, the nature of work has changed, and work has moved from office hours to how much results need to be achieved. So what matters is no longer your presence in the office, but really how much you are able to deliver, whether you are in the office or you are at home or wherever you can find yourself. A research from Gallup, which is a brand name in the development and corporate sector in terms of research and knowledge generation, suggests that more than half of at-home workers, that is remote workers, say that they would prefer to continue working remotely as much as possible. So one may think that since we are done with the early stage of the COVID-19, so there is no point really going back to the remote working and all the pressures that come with it. But really, many of those who have experienced the remote work are actually seeking to continue working remotely because of the benefits and the flexibility attached to it. 84% of employers are set to rapidly digitalize working processes, including a significant expansion to remote working. And about 1/3 of employers expect to take steps to create a sense of community, connection, and belonging among employees through digital tools. So it really means that this new way of working has come to stay in one form or the other, whether your organization has fully resumed in the office, whether you are still adopting a hybrid model, or you have fully gone remotely. There is that marker that has definitely changed the way we see and we approach our ways of working, which really makes room for flexibility and adaptation. So the first question we'll try to ask ourselves is how to prepare yourself to work remotely. And we are saying that for you to be able to work remotely and efficiently, you need to define and nurture a dedicated workspace for your remote work. That will help you to stay focused and organized. So our brain is geared to build certain habits that are easy to follow and are easy to implement based on the culture that you have developed. So developing and nurturing a workspace that is at one corner of your house, whether in the kitchen, whether in your bedroom, whether in a dedicated space. You just need to make it a place that is set for that particular purpose for the time of your working. So it can be a multifunction desk that can turn into a dining table at night when you are having supper, but during the day, this is where you have decided to work, and that makes it very easy. It doesn't mean that you are only hooked up to that place, but definitely it's like the main working space that you have. So that helps you a lot to organize yourself. You also want to define certain routine, and the routine could be about how you manage your time, the time at which you get up, the time at which you start work, or how you even gear yourself up to approach your work. If there are certain personal tasks or chores that you need to attend to, but you really want to have some routine defined to make it easy for you to embark on your work. You also want to be flexible, because working remotely in a virtual workspace of at home, wherever you find yourself, does not mean that you have to completely replicate what you are doing when in the office. So you are not in the office and you cannot exactly have a replica of your activities within your office space at your home or at another place where you are working remotely. So you need to be flexible and ensure that you are able to find your perfect rhythm for your work. So in the midst of the lockdown, if you had to stay indoor for a long time, like a month or more, then you can find ways for you to keep exercising. Sometimes you can take little breaks. I used to do some push-ups, 5-10 minutes in between working time, and that really helps you to maintain your energy and to keep yourself moving. So you follow the exact pattern of the office. Then you also want to be ready, as simple as it is, right? So you have defined your workspace, you have set your routine, you have found your proper rhythm, and you just need to be ready mentally, psychologically, and also logistically. You need to cater for your internet access to ensure that you have reliable access to power supply, and you also make provision for backup plans. So backup plan could be your power generator. It could be your power bank if your phone, for instance, needs to be charged when you are not close to a socket. It could be a mobile network device if your main source of supply for internet is not working. So you need to make provision for backup plans just in case. You also need to be conscious. We need to be conscious on engaging with other third parties, with our staff, with team members when it comes to time management. Be punctual and be respectful of other people's time. And we also need to be self-disciplined, to imbibe discipline in everything that we do and ensure that we are not also overlapping and stretching work into our private space to the extent that it may affect our relationship with our close ones. And then you also need to keep a diary. So just as basic things as keeping a notebook or a calendar where you can take some notes of appointments or meetings. You can do some of those using your computer, a sticky note, a digital sticky note, or you can use paper-based record taking. But just keep a diary so that when you are in meetings or when you remember something, there's a place for you to jot it down. So we just need to be ready mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and also logistically to embark into our virtual work experience. And then we also have to apply empathy. Empathy from an individual point of view, relating with your colleagues and team members, but also from an organizational point of view to develop a supportive culture that enables each and everyone within the organization to feel catered for, so that you launch into I know a friend of a company, or let's say a corporate foundation, who said that in this remote work, they, for instance, have an application that has been developed that enables them to have health check-in every morning that they're logged into their computer. So before they start working, there's a form that pops up to them, and they will check, they'll have a checklist that they will fill that helps them to tell whether they are still in good shape or they need to be attended to. So these are some of the means that we can adopt in getting ready for the actual remote work experience. Yes, Nancy, I saw you coming up. Is everything all right? Can I continue?
Yes, please. You can continue. Your internet, we're losing you a bit, so now it's stable.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So now we are trying to find out, so what makes a conducive virtual environment, since we want to have an environment that is both conducive and also productive. And so we could say that a conducive environment is one that is deprived of clutters. So what we mean by clutters is the same way you keep your office space tidy, right? You will not have a pile of documents that are spread all over and scattered in your office. The same way you would like to have your computer well taken care of. So you don't want to have a bunch of files and useless documents, for instance, that are on your desktop when you open your page and everything is spread all across and you cannot really find your way. And sometimes we also find ourselves keeping a lot of documents in our downloads that have never been removed, even though we may not need some of them. So we need to remove the clutters. We also need to have applications on our computer that are user-friendly and that enable each staff in the organization to find their way easily. That can also allow us to access our data and information virtually anywhere we find ourselves, and enables us to retrieve data and information in a timely manner and facilitates collaboration within team members. So a conducive virtual workspace is one that facilitates interaction within team members, is also one that supports easy access to information and application, and facilitate your own personal learning and development. So you can find ways in your spare time to build your own skills, or even as you are working. So if I use an example of the recent version of the Microsoft PowerPoint, you know, when you are working with the Microsoft PowerPoint that is downloadable from Office 365, you have design ideas. So as you are building your presentation, you get inspiration from existing design concepts that you can directly tap into, and all those using it day in and day out help you to learn new tips and new tricks as you go on to your digital journey. So now the next question has to do with what makes a productive virtual workspace. So by productivity, we are thinking of a system that is integrated, right? Is not having a fragmented workspace, but a system that enables integration from one application to the other. The data does not get lost. You do not have a different hosting of your data from one platform to the other, but you have an integrated access to your data and information. It can freely flow. So I can use examples of the Google Workspace, for instance, where you can access your document in Google Drive, and then you can do your editing, you can book calendar appointments, and you can also see them reflecting into your inbox space. The same applies for Office 365 for Microsoft, whereby your information can be retrievable into OneDrive, into SharePoint, into Microsoft Teams, and it is integrated in that manner. So these kind of systems are preferred over isolated and fragmented systems that do not help you to find your way. One other example is Slack. So Slack is also a very good workspace for organizations and teams that are working remotely. And a productive digital workspace is also one that facilitates process automation. So for instance, when we went into the lockdown, we noticed that we could no longer fill a manual form to submit requests for leaves for those who had to move maybe to their family, or maybe for those who need to take time off during the rest of the year for their leave. So we had to use some applications integrated in the Office 365 package to build a leave request form that is seamless and that is all completed directly through the online system. It's also a system that facilitates co-creation, right? So you do not have to download a document before you can share to a colleague, and for the colleague or team members to make input, and for one person to again compile and synchronize all the inputs. Directly as you create the document or you open the document, many team members can work using a link, and you have a shared access where co-creation can take place and facilitate the generation of ideas and innovation. A productive workspace is also one that offers a variety of options and templates that you can select. So there are pre-built templates that are embedded into the system where you can directly launch on to build a presentation. So a presentation that could take you, for instance, an hour or two to design, you can easily have it completed. The same experience also happens whether you are using a Google Sheet for Google or you are using an Excel online for Microsoft. You have easily built a pre-designed pivot table report that you can directly make use of without having to build one from scratch. And it's definitely a system that also is amenable to efficiency and facilitate a performance of your team members. So this is what we mean by a productive digital workspace. Now let's look at what are the factors that contribute to productivity. Productivity hinges on personal motivation. So no matter how much you incite and you encourage colleagues to use the tool, if there is no personal motivation for adopting the digital tools, then it will not be done. So you need personal motivation, and that requires incentives and organizing at the personal level to adopt the tools. You also need management support to empower staff to achieve satisfaction on the job. So we need organizations that are mindful and that are also interested in the well-being of their staff, not only about the productivity. And definitely productivity is also a factor of the cohesion within your team. So it's not a solo journey. It's not only about accountability, but it's also about creating team spirit and collaboration, which is critical to maintain individual and collective productivity at the workplace. So what are the important factors that you have to engineer to ensure that you have a very productive remote or virtual workspace? There are three main factors that we have outlined. Those three are the people, the policy and processes, and the technology. So for any organization that would like to enjoy and to engineer a successful remote work experience, you need to look at the people. You need to look at the policy and processes, and you need to look definitely at the technology that will facilitate the experience. So at the people level, from an individual point of view, you want to set your personal goals. You also want to create meaningful connections, and that touches on the issue of team building and also being a social person, a social being among the team. Then you want to show empathy, not only about the work, even when your colleagues are going through tough times, when you make a call to them or you send a WhatsApp message or you send a notification, it's only to demand results and to demand accountability. No, we need to show that we are more sensitive to the situation, and because we are not there physically with them, we want to be more empathetic to understand their context, their situation, and how we can support each other in this experience. We also need to show that we are accountable. So because we are not physically present to go through a formal and strict process of accounting, you want to define your own ways of accounting to yourself at the end of the day, or maybe midway during the week, or at your own pace, right? But you also want to be accountable to your supervisors. You don't have to be scolded, you don't have to be called upon, you just need to realize that it is a duty for you to account for whichever work that you are producing, whether you are being to report or not. You also need to account to your team members. So if you are the manager, yes, it is your duty to account to yourself and your supervisor, but also account to your own team members before they have to ask you a question. So you can set a debriefing meeting on a periodic basis. You can have one-on-one chat sessions to just report yourself and also to check on your colleagues. Still about the people, but from an organizational perspective, You want to raise awareness on the changing nature of work, because definitely things are not like before, and we cannot be oblivious of that factor. There is a lot of change happening around us, so we need to educate staff so that we can move on to the issues that we are facing and how we can address them. Educate staff on the peculiarities of virtual work and how it affects us in terms of adaptation. So there need to be a lot of education and also training, provide training for staff on a regular basis to hone in their skills. So it's not a one-off kind of training, but continuous. And so beyond the training, we also need to ensure that there is continuous support, there is coaching, peer-to-peer coaching, or supervisor to team members, which way you want it, and also development-oriented approach. So the organization must put in place processes that facilitate the development of the staff beyond the technical tools, the technology, and other demands. And we also need to empower managers, not only staff individually, but empower managers to create flexibility within the new processes, because these are ways of working that were not part of our design when we started our work. Many organizations were not used to that ways of working, so we need to realize and adapt our systems. Now, from the people, we now go to the policy and processes. At the policy level, so I will quickly run through a typical policy design process and then touch on some of the processes we can put in place. So you need consultation and conduct research to see what works in different settings or scenarios, draft a policy that accommodates the new approaches to work, and ensure that the policy reflects the values of the organization. So going into remote work is very important, but it does not have to be done at the blind side of the organization values and principles. And we also need to engage relevant stakeholders for endorsing the policy. So it's not like one person will sit, draft the policy, and then force it on colleagues. It has to go through a process that is inclusive. And now we operationalize the new policy to guide staff virtual work engagement. Consideration, the input and the contribution from different perspectives and the experience of different work settings. So once we have policies defined, we now need to look at how we are able to embed some of the processes in the virtual space. So that will involve mapping the process flows and approvals, because people will be working remotely. Sometimes they will need to make decisions. Sometimes they will need to be endorsed in the actions that they take. So the approval systems must be what? The sanctity of the approval system must be maintained. We also need to leverage automation tools. So if you are working, for instance, with the Office 365 package, you have a suite of applications like Power Automate that can help you build applications. You can combine it with Power Apps. And this is what we have used when we were designing our leave request form. And it is working perfectly without anyone interfering with manual processes. We also need to define accountability structures, working through the system, ensure that there are accountability and that not everyone is not just doing anything without any report. And so we need to also establish key performance metrics. And lastly, to measure progress. It's very important to evaluate ourselves as we move on along the way. So this is to do with the policy and processes. And as I've mentioned, we will now have to consider the technology. So technology is not an end in itself, but it's only a means to achieve the end. So if you look at how we have progressed so far, you see that it's not only about the technology, but it's more about the people, it's more about the organization and the value that we are upholding, and the systems that we are making very convenient, user-friendly, adaptable, and flexible to meet our common goal. So when it comes to technology, we need to ensure that we identify trusted communication channels and tools, and we'll have a session dedicated to security, so I will not go much into that. We also need to ensure that the tools that we are using are easily adaptable and they are user-friendly, that is not too complex and too rigid for the common staff not to be able to use, right? Even though there is a level of training, but already the tool must be very flexible and easy to use. In a virtual space, there are times when you need to directly have a conversation with your team members or your partners in a real-time fashion. That is called synchronous communication or engagement. So when making decisions about the selection of tools or technology, we need to ensure that we are looking at tools that facilitate the ability for us to have direct communication and direct engagement without breaking the chain of the value chain in terms of our data management and our information flow. So for instance, if you are using an Office 365 package, just to use that example, you can just launch a call in your team's environment and you do not lose access to the data, and every conversation that you have, you may have the history that is backed up automatically for you to refer to. In other instances, you will prefer an asynchronous communication whereby you have to send an email and the person, the recipient will receive and then review and report to you or revert back to you later. So this is asynchronous. So both options must be available in a virtual space to enable a very efficient communication. And then the last on that has to do with the type of information and the value that the information carries. In a virtual workspace, you will prefer a rich type of information exchange versus a lean information exchange. So what do we mean by that? You know, when you are in the office physically, you can call a colleague, you can have chit chat, you can prompt a colleague to just come and take a look at your screen to make comments or share insight, and you do not have that opportunity when you are working alone from a virtual space. So a rich type of information or exchange will require that you can see the non-verbal cues, you can make a judgment for yourself of the situation and the emotional, or let's say the non-verbal kind of communication. So it's best in the virtual environment to have your video on and to engage directly with colleagues and to have different touching points as you are building onto your connection or network. Otherwise, it becomes very it becomes a very mundane, just to do with the work, and sometimes you can even overlap your communication if you are only using voice because you cannot see who is coming in at what point or the other. So you prefer a richer type of exchange in a virtual space versus a lean type of exchange. So these are a few considerations for working in a virtual environment, whether to do with the people, whether to do with the policy and processes, or whether to do with the technology. And this takes us to the end of our presentation on this topic. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure being with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank. It was really an insightful presentation, and I'm sure all of us have learned a lot. Please, we will give room for questions. So kindly, you can raise your hand if you have a question, or you can also type your question in the chat room, and our speaker will respond to that. But before that, or whilst you share your questions in the chat room, Mr. Frank, I would like you to share with us some experience of your organization in creating this digital conducive workspace during the COVID-19 era with us.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Okay, so at WAXI, it's interesting to know that we had begun to adopt cloud solution applications long before COVID started. And even a few months, or let's say the year before COVID, we had already begun to introduce staff training on technology. So we were running a series of training topics on a consistent basis. So we have a weekly staff meeting, and we do a 10 to 15 minute training on technology at the end of the staff meeting for about 2 months in a quarter. And so we leave 1 month for kind of stuff to digest or apply, and then we come to the next quarter and we do. So we have been practicing that, More recently, before the lockdown, we were having a similar approach, but not necessarily over 2 months. We're having a regular training, maybe in a quarter, running like about 3 or 4 in a series. And so we already had a level of preparation and readiness when it comes to using some of the tools that we had adopted as an organization. So as far back as more than 5 or 6 years ago, we had already adopted cloud solutions and which facilitate integration, which facilitate synchronization of our work and easy retrieval of information. And that has helped us to move away from the in-house server that we're using before, because the server limited us. When we are out of the office, it's difficult to access data. But since we implemented a cloud system, it's very easy for us to retrieve our data wherever we are, using mobile devices or using computers. And really, it has made it so easy for us when the COVID situation started. So it was only another opportunity or another occasion for us to practice what we had learned, even though we had to face some challenges here and there and support colleagues. So we had a mechanism to also respond when issues were happening, and we kept the training going and also the support to back up and the coaching one-on-one session to help each and everyone be at the same level of training.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I can see Angela for the hands on. Please, Angela, unmute your microphone and please ask your question. Hello, Angela. Okay, please, you can ask your question.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Frank, thank you very much for the insightful presentation. It was a good one there. I just have maybe one of how do you show to the organizational members or to your colleagues whom you know perfectly well are not respecting the rules and ethics of remote working? For instance, you're online having a meeting and you know that somebody's internet is definitely working well, but then the person is engaged in another thing. So the person is not really responding to what you're saying or contributing to your discussions. How do you show empathy in that regard? Because it's really an issue when it comes to remote working, particularly for online engagements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. This is a very good question and it's a very practical one. So a nice question there. Okay, so in everything in life, we need to be balanced, right? So it's good for you to show empathy because you are concerned and you are interested in the well-being and welfare of the staff members. And in the meantime, we also need to be truthful to each other. And all of that is well managed when the ground rules have been defined early in the process. So as I said, before launching into remote work, there is the personal preparation, and then there is the organizational work that has to be done, which includes designing policies and drafting processes, but also has a significant component, which is to do with awareness raising, educating staff about the need to work remotely and the adaptation that it will imply or it will require. So once that preparation is done psychologically and all of that, then you are really relying on the trust that you have built with your staff for them to be able to deliver and to be truthful in their work. So there's sometimes this conversation that we have when it comes to remote work of trust, accountability, and productivity. What must you prioritize? What must come first? So this is a conversation that we have been having with some colleagues, and we have, I mean, some of us have concluded that trust is one of the first and foremost element that you need to put on the table. Once there is trust, then it's easier for colleagues to now be accountable and also to be encouraged and motivated to be productive in their work. So we cannot do one without the other. It's really building the trust, but also ensuring that the productivity is not compromised. And if you have done all of that and you still see that there are some deficiencies, you need to have a frank conversation. Call the person, have a direct conversation, whether physical or virtual, and maybe try to understand some of the challenges that the person is going through. Maybe that person is facing something that you are not made aware of, and is trying to juggle between family or private situation and then work situation. So you just need to do a little more of digging, but without compromising on the quality that has to be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Please, you can still ask your question in the chat room or raise your hand. Frank, I am interested in the challenges with regards to this remote working and creating a conducive environment. Can you share with us some anticipated challenges organization is expected to face and how best they can resolve it in this kind of situation?
Thank you very much, Nancy. So we could say that remote work is almost like a double-edged sword, because there is no doubt, and this is statistically proven, that working remotely in many organizations results in more productivity and more deliverables than working in the office. It's time saved in terms of commuting from home to work and vice versa. And also it reduces stress and other things, even though you can look at it from a different perspective. But then it's proven that it enhances the volume of work that has been delivered. Now, put aside the work delivered, it may also have the reverse effect, whereby some colleagues may feel, may lose their incentives, you know, if you are not motivated enough, just because maybe you are not used to working alone. You are not of a lone ranger type of person. You prefer to work in a group or around your colleagues. Then your productivity may go down, and not because of your capability or capacity, but more for an intangible reason, or something that has to do with your motivation and your emotional connection. Some people thrive more on their emotions, and they are able to perform better when they are more stable and balanced emotionally than just having the environment for them to work, right? So this is one of the challenges if staff are disincentivized. So that could be one challenge. Then the logistical factor can also be another challenge. You may not promise that all your staff will have access to decent internet connection. And for where we are in the part of the world, internet connection is one of the major struggles for most non-profit organizations. Just to use their example, because if you are talking about private or government, they may have the resources, but for non-profit organization, it's very hard for you to really mobilize the resources. So internet connection may be a challenge. And we have a very erratic power supply, which also can interfere. And in certain settings also, you may have family interference. You know, being at home, you have to make a very conscious effort, right, to be able to deliver if you are in a family where many of the responsibilities lie on you to provide or cater for the rest of the family. When you are not there, definitely certain things will be done without you. But when you are there, you may not just say that you are delegating the role to someone else. It's almost incumbent on you to ensure that you are stepping into both roles. And it's not easy, most particularly for those who are of the female gender, right? It's very difficult to be able to be up to the game and up to the standard in maintaining that level of productivity working from home. So these are real peculiar issues that are part of our social construct and are part also of our infrastructural and economic limitation in our region. But of course, we always have to find solutions, and we have to learn from others. We have to work and see where other people have found some alternatives. So at WAXI, managing the Techsoup program, we support organizations to overcome some of the challenges, right? When it comes to low bandwidth issue, when it comes to hardware. So we had a program last year where we were able to donate hardware computers to organizations from across 7 countries in West Africa in response to the COVID situation. So we are concerned and we are interested in working to support organizations to address those challenges.
Thank you very much, Frank. I think one key thing that I picked from this session is the need for us to incorporate trust in working remotely and also ensuring the productivity, and how we have to also consider the three key things: the people, the policy, and the technology in conducive remote working setting. So at this point, thank you, Frank. We would like to switch to the next topic. And I want to use the opportunity to invite my colleague Timothy to also take over for the next section discussion. Timothy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And I'm so happy to be here. My name is Timothy Odion, and I work with the Nigeria network of NGO. I'll be moderating the second section that has the theme topic: digital security and privacy in a remote working context. As we all know, digital security and privacy protection have become a public and policy priorities in an increasing digital and data-dependent economy and society. And these has also poses challenges to every one of us. When I say everyone, it includes government, businesses, and individuals. So the risk associated with digital privacy, how do we mitigate it? And also increase our trust, because no doubt there are benefits associated with digital, the use of digital. So how do we face those challenges, mitigate it, and also have trust in the growing number of online entities that we have today? Join me in inviting our next speaker, Benga Session of Paradigm Initiative. Benga Session is the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, a Pan-African social enterprise working on digital inclusion and digital rights through its offices in some African countries like Cameroon, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Benga Session is also a non-resident fellow at the Digital Civil Society Lab at Stanford University. And prior to starting as the Paradigm Initiative, Benga led the Lagos Digital Village, a joint project of junior achievement of Nigeria, Microsoft, and Lagos State governments. Benga Sheson was originally trained as an electronic and electrical engineer at Obafemi Awolowo University. He completed executive education programs at Lagos Business School, New York Group for Technology Transfer, Oxford University, Harvard University, Stanford University, Santa Clara University, and the University of Pacific. Benga Sheson, you have our audience as you handle the topic, digital security and privacy in a remote working context. We are all here. Benga Sheson, you're welcome.
Thank you, Timothy, and good afternoon, everyone. I just saw a comment by one of my ogas here. Raymond says he wants to hear the correct pronunciation of Sheson. And I guess, Raymond, you've heard that is Sheson, but don't worry, anything you call me. I'm actually somewhere now where people have been calling me Gibenga, Sesan, and all those things, but it's okay. The important thing is for us to have a conversation about digital security in the workplace. And I mean, thanks to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share with you today. I've been given 30 minutes. What I hope to do is to finish up in 20 minutes and wrap it up, worst case scenario, 25 minutes, and then be able to give some more time to questions, because this is a very practical issue. Let me just give you some context for this. Paradigm Initiative works across 6 countries. It means that we've always been partly virtual and remote. We have weekly meetings, and at our weekly meetings, it has to be online, right? It has to be online because there's no way. We have 5 offices in Nigeria and 5 outside Nigeria. So there's no way in the world for all 10 offices to be together. So what we have to do is to go virtual. So when COVID happened, it was only just, a few adjustments that we had to make. When I say a few, I mean a lot, but not as much as many other people are to endure. And we will not be in the office until January 2022 is when Pride Administrative team members return physically to the office. I mean, that's because people are getting vaccinated. We're looking at the numbers and all that. So we're working remotely at the moment. And so when you talk about working, remotely and being able to keep yourself secure and safe, it's important to know that everything is now digital, right? So all of the work that you would normally walk into your colleague's office and say a few things, and then or you take notes and things like that, everything now has to be, like virtual. And because everything is virtual, I mean, we're meeting virtually right now. Typically, we will be in a conference room. I'll stand in front of you speaking, but this is now virtual. And by the way, I will say a few things about virtual environments. So I want to quickly share with you 6 things. Number 1 is passwords. And I know that when we talk about security, people think that password is too basic a conversation to have, but I actually just finished, before about 55 minutes ago, I just completed a training for, non-violence promoters who are activists, and I was talking to them about digital security. And it will interest you to know that many people, resist the idea of using a secure password because of 1 or 2 things that they don't know. If I ask people on this, call today that what is your what forms your password? Some of you, your password has been the same since, 1999 or 2005, or whenever you opened your email address, and you've been using the same passwords for everything else. And by the way, once or twice, you have maybe written your password from one of those accounts, maybe your old Gmail account or your old Yahoo account. You wrote the password and gave it to somebody to help you check your email, and then you're using the same password for your online banking. If you're one of those people, even before I finish this conversation today, please go change your password now. And I'll tell you, I'll share a few tips with you about how to make your password secure. I'm speaking now to an African audience. Earlier, I was speaking to people from North America and Europe. And so for many of them, English happens to be, their first language for many of them. For those on this call, English is your official language, right? But each person on this call has a local language. And you can actually use your local language for your password. When you do that, you've given too much work to hackers and to, hacking systems, such that, let me give you a practical example. If I use a password, and I'll use a Yoruba word, that means, plantain is a Yoruba word, right? I mean, plantain is what we all know. But if I want to use plantain as my password, I can write Ogede Agbangba. Now, what I am so sure of is that not many people on this call can spell what I just said. Timothy is Nigerian, I can tell from the audience surname, but I'm sure even Timothy cannot spell what I just said. Maybe I'm looking in the room now and I can see, okay, Oyebisi is here. Of course, Oyebisi can spell that. But the idea is you can use your local language for your passwords. You can also use spaces. Many of us don't know this. So at times we want to squeeze the words together. You can use spaces or special characters. And when you do that, what you do is you improve the complexity of how much damage can be done to that password. If you use many passwords across many devices, many services, as you should, as I do, one of the things you should never worry about is don't be worried about having to reset your password instead of having to write it down somewhere. Please do not write down your password somewhere, because when you do, what happens is that that piece of paper will get into somebody's hands. And of course, it's even a lot more serious now, because all of the work you're doing with your colleagues is virtual. It means that you're collaborating on Google Docs, you're collaborating on OneNote, you're collaborating on various documents. And if anyone has access to you, it means they have access to the entire organization. I say to my wife as a joke that she's my when we discuss GS security and she says, these things can be quite stressful, I said to her, please don't say they are stressful, because you can be my weakness, in the sense that anybody who tries to hack my account and can't, definitely will just hack my wife's account, and the person will send an email to me with a link, and because I trust her, I'll click on it, and then they get ownership of my device. You can use your local language, you can use special characters, and when you can, use two-factor authentication. What does two-factor authentication mean? You've seen 2FA written all over the place. What does it mean? It means that apart from logging into the account by using a username and password, you have to then add an additional code that is usually sent to your mobile phone or through another application on your mobile phone called an authenticator. If you use any of the social media platforms, for example, any of them, you have the opportunity, say for example, Google, you have the opportunity of turning on 2FA, two-factor authentication, or Twitter. When I go to a new location and I want to log in, to my Google account, for example, it will tell me somebody in Portugal is trying to log into my account, and I'll say, oh, well, I'm the one who's in Portugal, no problem. I'll allow that to happen. I will trust that browser. If I buy a new phone and I try to log into my Twitter account, it forces me to not only put my username and password, but to also put a code from an authenticator or that is sent to me by email. So that I wanted to talk about very quickly before I move to the second thing, which is please do a security audit of your devices and of the platforms that you use. One of the things that you will see when you do a security audit is that many platforms now allow you to do two-factor authentication, right? And you can turn that on. In fact, in the next few months, there are services that you will not be allowed to use except you turn on maximum security. Many of you have noticed that Facebook and Google have sent messages to you asking you to check if your security is okay. Some of you who use Facebook as high-profile people would have received the email from Facebook saying that there are certain things that you will never be allowed to do going forward because you are an at-risk person and you have to increase your security. So my suggestion to you, what I advise is, because you are now working across multiple places, some of us working remotely, some of us increasingly using many new tools, please make sure that you go to the security settings of the platform that you use and don't choose the default. For example, the default in many cases will be for you to not have to check if there's someone else logging into your account. The default could mean you won't use 2FA, two-factor authentication. Like I said, in many cases now, many of the platforms are also moving to a place where you'll be required to increase, the level of security. So just go through. Many of them allow you to do a security, a security audit. Let me show you an example, and I hope I can share my screen. Great, I can share my screen. So I will show you. I hope, yes, I'm sure you can see this. Now, this is my Google account. You can see my picture in the corner. Well, you can't see my password, don't worry. You can see that I have turned off, so I turn this off from time to time. I use this for training also. You can actually, if you go to, all you need to do is go to history.google.com. So history.google.com, it will bring you to this page. And this page is called My Google Activity. On this page, I'll show you as an example that many of you know that because you have, location turned on your device, everywhere you go is everything you search for is listed. These are the things I searched for today. Not somewhere in North Africa, maps, directions for some places in the UK. I searched for some information on this. You will see some of the information of places I've been to and all of that listed here. Now, what you can also do is, and it goes on and on. I mean, this is not going to be very long because I clear this out from time to time, but you can imagine everywhere you've been to, all of the search. What you can do is under search your activity. In this area, you can easily click on the 3 arrows and you can delete activity. Now, this way, it means that you can delete activity within the last hour. This is particularly useful, by the way, if you're on this call and you're an activist and you believe that your device is going to be seized, you can, instead of getting others into trouble so that, you know, the person who is getting you arrested finds information about everyone you have met, you can do a custom range. You can choose the date you want to delete to a particular date. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I do generally, which is all time. It allows you to delete information about ads, Android, books, calendar, Drive, Gmail, analytics. Now, there are certain things here, like maps, for example, or search that you want to delete. Let me deselect and choose some particular ones. Let's say, for example, I don't want information about where I've been because I may put others at risk because my device may be seized and the information I've searched for. And I click next. Now, what happens is that all of this information that I have here will be deleted. Delete is completed and location, you know, and you can do all of that. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. That was just to give you an example of what you can do with your various platforms. Please don't keep the default. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to TikTok, go to all the platforms you use and check your security settings and make sure that at the minimum you use a strong password. A strong password is at least 12 characters long. A strong password has numbers, letters, and special characters. A stronger password uses a language that is not very general. You know, you can use your own local language. Of course, I do not need to tell you that in this age and time where everything is virtual, because you are searching for various things online, there are times when you will get suspicious emails, marketing things to you. There are times when you will get emails from people that look like colleagues. It's called phishing, for example. When something comes to you, it looks like it's from a particular person, but it is actually not from them. It's from somebody else who has masqueraded as. I can see questions already coming in. Thank you very much. I'll attend to questions, shortly. You will see, keep them coming, please. You would see that when you receive some emails from certain people, there are links in them. If the rule is this, if you were not expecting a link or an attachment from anyone, do not open it until you do a second check. In fact, there are email clients that now allow you to automatically block attachments and links. The problem with that, though, is when somebody wants to send you the attachment that you need, like a presentation from today, it will bounce back because you have cut off all attachments. What some people do is attachments of a certain size are not accepted. But even at that, malware, which basically can come to you, malware is dangerous access to your device and taking control of it. A very simple example is you click on a link, that link takes you to a couple of websites, and then eventually your camera is automatically turned on. And every time you open your computer, even as long as you're connected to the internet, your video stream is being relayed and people can watch it and things like that. The best way to protect against that, the best technology known against that is called masking tape or paper tape. Just put the paper tape on the camera, just like this. I mean, that's my finger, so you can't see my face, but much better, you can use a slider. Like some of us used to just slide it in and then you can't see anything again, or you can slide it off. All right. So if you're not expecting any link from anyone, please don't share it. Now, because we spend a lot of time on virtual calls, I wanted to talk about that a bit. Two things. Number one is that I know on this call to manage bandwidth, this is Africa. We manage bandwidth by keeping our videos all off so that only one person has his video on, person who is speaking. And the interesting thing is that your camera is your new window to your house. Every time you go on a virtual call, remember, be deliberate about what you allow people to see. Some of us have behind us a board that has username and password of different things that we log into. It's right there on the wall, and then you get on a call and people can see it. Or people not just only writing things, but just be deliberate about what you show, because your camera is the new window. It's like somebody literally coming to your house. The door is not, closed, open it and looking around. That's literally what can happen right now. But apart from that, if you're the person who sets up virtual meetings, please, let's stop this habit of you design a poster with the link and the passcode. What you've done when you do that is literally like saying, my name is Benga Sheson. I have $1 million. I don't. I have $1 million. It's in this bank in Switzerland, and the code to get that money is XYZABCGS. What I've done is I've invited you to come and rob me. So when you put out information about meetings, always use a registration link. If it's for your team members, that's different. What you can do is to create a waiting room, especially if it's a repeated meeting. You create a waiting room so that when you see the name that you can't, recognize, you can then easily, excuse me. Okay, sorry, I've been talking a lot today, so the throat is very dry. So do not share the passcode to the meeting. Make sure you have a registration link. Make sure that for any reason, even if it's a small meeting, there is a waiting room. I see we have a waiting room here right now. There's a beta from UPC trying to enter the room, and they decide whether this person can enter the room. Now, I want to share with you very quickly in my last 10 minutes, 2 platforms. How to protect yourself online. It's called Ayeta. Ayeta is a Yoruba word that means bulletproof. If you go to ayeta.africa, and I'll type that here, ayeta.africa, you will get access to everything that I'm talking about today and much more, right? And I will show you what the toolkit looks like. And I'll share my screen in a second, and a few of the things that you can get access to there. Obviously, because of time, I will not, share everything. But this is what the toolkit looks like. It's by the way, it's available in English, in French, and in Kiswahili. So if there's anyone who's interested in doing training for people in Kiswahili, you can get this on the Paradigm Initiative website, ayeta.africa, and you can get it in either of 3 languages. So you have information here generally about digital rights, but where I want you to focus on is chapter 2 and 3. In chapter 4, we talked about internet shutdowns and circumvention, but 2 and 3 are where I'm focusing on today. Digital securities practices. And I'll show you, I've talked a bit, of course, about multi-factor authentication, one-time passwords, and I will show you a quick guide on what you should do to keep safe online. It's digital hygiene, and this information is available here for you to be able to use. Okay, so you can see here there are 12 safe online habits. Keep your systems and software up to date. Always use antivirus. For many of you who use Macs or who use devices that are registered originally, you have no issues, that's already there. Avoid phishing scams. People send emails. Do not click on links. Use a complex password. This is a password manager. Personally, now this is not Paradigm Initiative speaking, this is Benga Sheson speaking. Personally, I don't encourage password managers because if anyone gets access to your password manager, it means they have access to all your passwords. A password manager is like a basket. You put all your eggs in that basket, you are better protected with all your life, with a much stronger password. Be careful what you click. A reputable website can link you to cyber criminals and bad actors. Disreputable, of course. Don't leave your devices unattended. If this were a physical training, I would have given a practical example during the coffee break. People will leave their laptops open, will leave their mobile phones open, and then go and take a pee, or go and take a drink, or go and take coffee. And by the time they come back, nobody knows what has happened to those devices. Protect your data. Be smart about what you share. And all of these tips are right here. Now, one of the things that we've also done at Payne is we work with the guys at Policy. It's a partner organization based in Uganda to create digital safety. This is focused on women, but the information here, the story is built around the experiences of 3 African women. And if you click on Start Game, don't worry, I'll minimize the noise. You can access this game in either English, Luganda, Swahili, or French. Let's choose English. Goetze, Aisha, and Dami are the characters, and you can play this game. For example, let me choose Goetze. She's a student in Rwanda. She's passionate. If you continue, she spends a lot of time on social media. There's a training topic of someone in South Africa. Should she like the tweet? Is she going to like the tweet? Is she going to retweet? Is she going to quote the tweet? Let's say she quotes the tweet. Somebody sends a direct message to her to insult her. What should she do? Let's find out. Should she block and mute the person? Should she refrain from responding? Or should she report the person to Twitter? Let's say block and mute. Now it shows you how to block and mute, and you can go on and on and on and on. If we had chosen, I know I can't really go back on this. So if I choose again, okay, let's turn off the music. Let's say, let me make another choice. Let's say she quotes the tweet, somebody sends her a DM, and I say report the user to Twitter. It also shows you how you can make report to Twitter. It tells you Twitter will respond within 48 hours and gives you a lot more information on what you need to do. Shows you platforms, tells you what you need to do about them. Now, this is a privacy checkup on Facebook for that you get. I would say you should even go a step further by checking your privacy settings. Now, if you've done all of this to protect yourself and you still have issues, somebody has hacked your account, somebody is monitoring and you're wondering if someone is snooping on you, you can use reporty.africa. RIPOTI.Africa. Reporty, is a Yoruba word that means bulletproof. Reporty is a Swahili word that means report. You can make a report. There are partners working with Paradigm Initiative across multiple African countries. As of the last count, there were about 28 partners. Some of you will know some of these organizations working together with us to make sure that when someone reports a violation, we can then help solve the problem and help them seek redress. Okay, that's very quickly on the 2 platforms. And like I said, I want to make sure that I leave some time for specific questions, because I know that digital security may sound like a general thing for many of us, but there are people that have specific questions, and I would love to take those particular questions right now. And what I will do is okay, we already have some questions here and I'll take them. What do you think about the use of generated passwords? I mean, to be honest, generated passwords are not a problem. Just so you know, generated passwords by platforms or any service that you're using, they don't have a record of those generated passwords. But what I say to people is you can use that to learn. You can use that to learn how your password should look. Okay, usually it's a random set of characters, right? It is long, about 12, characters at the minimum, some 16. In fact, some platforms will not allow you any longer to use 8 characters. I know many of us were used to 8 characters, but the reason why 8 characters have changed to like 12 characters, 16 characters is because as computers become more powerful with processing power, hackers, and I'm not speaking of, ethical hackers, I'm speaking of people who don't mean well, also have increasing power to be able to hack. So that's why, the longer the password, the longer it will take for you to get hacked. I mean, many factors combined, but typically length is a major factor in the vulnerability of your password. So yes, you can use generated passwords, but don't forget, if it's a generated password, you can't remember it easily. It means you have to copy it and put it somewhere. And I discourage very strongly, do not write your passwords in places. You have enough experience and enough local language to be able to create a password that you will remember, but no one else will be able to guess. Same person asked a question. How do we guarantee that if we receive a notice about devices being used in location, is there a definite way to know whether we're being scammed or not? Well, reputable platforms, and by that I mean services that you know that millions or billions of people use. What you need to do to prevent being scammed is when you get an email, always check to see whether it is really from the pretend email address or a real email address. Many email clients will allow you to click on more. When you see the email, it will allow you to click on show more. When you click on show more, it will show you the name that came with the email and then the email address. So if you see something like benga.sheson@paradigmhq.org, of course you know it's authentic from Paradigm Initiative. But if you see something like benga.sheson@paradigmhq.forever.com, you know that's not authentic. Even though that person could send that email and masquerade and use in their settings, they will use the name benga.sheson@paradigmhq.org or Benga Sheson, and you will think it's authentic. But when you click on the email address, it will show you what the exact email address is. And many email clients now, by the way, when they notice things like that, they move it to spam, to the spam folder, so that you would have to be able to check it. Please come again. After going to default, what next to enable me set up security settings in all my devices? Al Hassan, it depends on the device, and it depends on the platform, but all of them agree on the word to use, which is settings. So either security settings or settings. Go to settings, and when you go to settings, you will then be able to take it from there. So if you go to settings, you will see things like audit or check this or all that. But one area to go to, even on your mobile phone, is if you go to settings. Under settings, you will see immediately that it shows you various things like security, like privacy, like location, for you to turn on or turn off. And here a link to do a report. Oh yeah, yes. That's www.reporty.africa. You will notice that what we've tried to do, because the work we do is regional, we've tried to also make sure that you can get access to many of these tools using .africa. So that way you don't have to try to remember. All you need to remember is reporting. Reporting is a Swahili word that means report. Just reporty.africa. If you want to know how to protect yourself, you can go to ayata.africa. And of course, if you are also very interested in information from various African countries on how to protect your rights, on what happened in the year 2020, for example, you can go to londa.africa. That website will take you to the Paradigm Initiative website, where you will see information about the 2020 Digital Rights and Inclusion Report on 20 African countries. So this is the summary of what I wanted to share with you today. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions right now via comments, or at this point, I'd like to hand over back to, I think, is it Timothy? Timothy is moderating, yes, okay. And if there are more questions, I'm more than happy to take them, even though I know I've I have 3 more minutes out of the 30 minutes I was given, so I can take a few questions. But I suspect you'll give some extra time for question and answer according to the agenda also.
Yeah, most definitely. Very insightful presentation, I must say. And I've learned so much. And I'm very sure that, and those of us online also have questions. Thank you very much, Benga Session, for taking your time to answer those questions that were on the chat box. But let's see if we have 1 or 2 that we want to use the raise hand button to ask questions. Then we can move. Do we have questions? Now, while we wait for, okay. All right. Okay, while we wait for some that might still come up with their question. I was, wow, when you said that you are still working from home and that you will not be resuming the office or working physically until January. So the question I want to ask there, does it mean that you experience less threat or risk when you work at home compared to when you work in using the fixed physical office space?
Well, the threat of COVID is why we're working from home and not from the office. We don't want to bring, I mean, to be honest, almost everyone in the office is now vaccinated. We can resume. But don't forget, many of our African countries, vaccination rate is like 1%, 2%. So there's still a lot of, people being susceptible to COVID and things like that. But also because we have begun to develop our muscles with digital cooperation. Don't forget, 10 offices, there's no way in the world you're going to have. We're going to meet physically, by the way, in December. We're going to have a retreat in December. But before then, there's no way that you're going to get all 29 team members into the same room from 10 countries. It's going to be difficult. So what can you do? You can just go online and get work done. By the way, from next week, I'm starting something, a pin called the, it's been called the ED Open Hours, EDOH, when 1 hour, one hour every day or 5 hours a week, I have a Zoom room or a Google Meet room where I am, literally like I'm in my office, and any member of the team can walk in to have a conversation, something they need my attention on, or things like that. And what we're trying to do is basically realizing that this is the new normal, right? To be honest, when I'm physically at the HQ in Lagos or in Yaba, to be specific, my colleagues come into my office. If I'm writing and my face is down at times, they know not to come in immediately. But if I'm not writing, or if I get, I can see them and wave them in. My office is open. So we're trying to recreate that kind of experience online. And the beautiful thing is that anyone from our offices in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, or Kenya can also do the same thing. Even Senegal can do the same thing without having to get on a flight and get into Lagos and come to my office. So I think there's so many advantages of the virtual environment that we're still enjoying, and we will continue to incorporate into what we do. Definitely.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Benga Session. Let me also see if we have...
Yeah, I see there's a question on device location here. Now, good. I'm happy someone is asking this question because it's very practical. You've noticed that in my Google account, I turned on my location, but then I deleted the content. Now, you have to choose at times between what you will gain and what you may lose. So, for example, turning on your location means that if you're a security risk, in quotes, according to maybe there's a government that thinks you're a security threat, you are too much of an activist, they want to pick you up. Now, turning on your location is definitely not a good idea. But if you now want to travel from one place to the other, a place that you don't know, and you need to use Google Maps, you can't use Google Maps without turning on your location. So the question you ask yourself is, do I want to risk getting lost by not using Google Maps, or do I want to risk getting arrested by turning on my location? Then you can make a decision. I'm absolutely certain the decision I will make in that kind of scenario, but I trust that we're speaking, as it is said, wisdom amongst the perfect. I'm speaking, with people who are adults and, can make up their own mind on what to do if at that point. So I would say that if you believe that there isn't a lot of risk, and by the way, that could be a very dangerous belief to have, then you may feel free to turn on your location because you want to use the services are attached to that location. But from time to time, when you're not using that particular application to find your location from one place to the other, it's okay to turn off your location. And by the way, when you visit a website and it says we want to do something based on your location, you don't have to say yes. If you say no, you can still use the website.
Thank you very much for that, Benga Session. Of course, you mentioned the importance of password and how the use of password can help mitigate the risk and threat. Now, speaking from the point of view of a non-profit actor, what role do you think that non-profit plays in preventing and mitigating those threats or risks that you mentioned?
Well, so I think that as non-profits, as the people who work mostly, governments do service, complete services to citizens, businesses sell to citizens, but civil society as a sector literally has the best relationship because you're not forcing anything on citizens, you're not selling them anything, you're just trying to make society better. And I think we're in a very good place to educate people a lot more about digital, and let's not even talk about digital security if that scares people. Let's talk about digital hygiene. Nobody needs to tell you to brush your teeth. If you don't, you know what will happen. Nobody needs to tell you that when you are pressed, you need to go to the restroom. If you don't, God help you that you don't get into serious trouble by blowing up or whatever. So there are certain things that you must do in terms of physical hygiene. And it's also important for you to do things in terms of digital hygiene. You cannot leave your devices unattended. It's not possible. You cannot share your password with someone else. I beg, because let me check my email. I beg. No, you can't do that. The reason for that is because access to one of your platforms or one of your accounts is literally access to almost everything, especially for those who use open authentication or use one email address like your Gmail address to authenticate other services. It means that if you're using your Gmail address to authenticate multiple services, if there's a compromise on that account's password, and somebody else has access, they have access to everything else that is connected to that email. One of the funniest things I see is when people use just any email address that comes to their mind to open their bank accounts. And I've seen this, Uganda, Nigeria, at least where we've done training, and you see people do that. So they say, what's your email address? They say timothy@gmail.com. Because you really don't have an email address, but you just want to put something there. You know what happens is that every time they send emails to timothy@gmail.com, the reason people get away with it is because they usually not a lot of money in those accounts. But God help you that you now suddenly become more comfortable, you have more money. It means the person that receives that email, that person that gets timothy@gmail.com owns your money, not you. That's not a good thing. After you worked so hard. I see that my Oga BC has his hands up, so maybe we can take his instructions.
Thank you for putting me on the spot, Benga, but thank you so much. I just wanted to ask you from your wisdom, and thanks for a lot of things I've also learned. Is as non-profits, we're always not having all the resources that we need, and we are competing with priorities. I can hazard a guess already that you tell us do not use cracked version of software.
Yeah.
But then, how do we balance it? What is the role of our board in approving budgets for technology such that we're able to have different licenses for the work?
Well, the good news is that you are now on a call with Techsoup. You no longer have to use, if any NGO or any member of a team, non-profit, uses cracked software, we've got somebody who is building something in the background. Let's see. Okay, that's I'm going to mute Regina. Okay, muted. If you use fake software, then it's because you are not aware that through Techsoup, for example, you have access to some free software. There's some that you have to pay a token for. You don't have to spend, for example, $1,200 on one license. You can get that at times at 10% of the value from Techsoup. And I wasn't paid to do this marketing, so this is not marketing on behalf of Techsoup, by the way, but I'll send them my invoice. But basically, I realized, and this is not because of the services they offer where they sell software, that they actually have tons of software that Google, Facebook, Microsoft make available to nonprofits for free. But because Techsoup has a reputation for providing such services, they then go through that. You have to go through them. For example, Paradigm Initiative has access to G Suite for free. We don't pay for it. Well, we pay for some extra services, but the extra services we pay for are not an arm and a leg. To pay for G Suite, you need thousands of dollars per account, but right now we have access to that. We have access to free adverts on YouTube. Anybody who knows Paradigm Initiative, you know that we make films. We probably can't advertise the video, but we can advertise text. And all of those services, Facebook often gives free credit. So exactly, Raymond says he has this account through Techsoup from, for his NGO. So please, if you're on this call, stop, because when you use fake software, what you've done is 80% of the time, what you've downloaded is dangerous. 20% of the time, it may work, but eventually you will get locked out. Because don't forget, these guys have billions of dollars in research. It means that they are always checking to see, which is why they've now moved everything to subscription instead of just one license fits all, so that they can catch you red-handed. But please don't get caught in doing the wrong thing, number one, and don't expose yourself to risk. Just go to Techsoup website. There was a video that I saw when I at the beginning of this call that talked about Techsoup giving you thank you, Kwame. Perfect timing. westafrica.techsoup.global. Techsoup.global. Go there, check. You will see that you have access to some software at no cost. So let's take advantage of that. So the answer to that, Oga Oyebisi, is that NGOs don't have to worry about big budget items. They can go to Techsoup. And by the way, if you go to Techsoup and the process looks a bit complicated, send them an email. The service is fantastic. You will read from someone who will help you understand, what's going on. And feel free to talk to people who have used Techsoup before. And thank you, Kwame. He has now shared the email address. We didn't plan this in advance, by the way. It's good to be ready with such information. So please go ahead and check out Techsoup. They're doing an amazing work in getting expensive required software to non-profits that need them, at times for free and at times for minimal cost. Thank you, and over to you, Timothy.
Thank you so very much, Begaseson, and we really appreciate those wisdom and knowledge that you have shared with us, and be sure that we are going to look for better ways to make use of those vital information that you've shared with us. And also thank you, Oyebisi, for laying the ground for our next presentation. We've talked so much about Techsoup and their programs. So I will be inviting Frank Somo this time around to tell us, to give us a presentation on Techsoup West Africa program and products. Frank, please.
Thank you very much, Timothy. And thanks to my colleague Benga on this platform for the opportunity to share the platform with you. Great presentation down there. And a lot of insight on digital security and safety. And just because we are talking about digital security and safety, we have a lot of opportunities that we can tap into in terms of securing our data and facilitating collaboration within the nonprofit space. So we'll touch briefly on what Techsoup West Africa is, what are some of the products available, how can you benefit from them, and who are some of the partners that we are working with. So Techsoup West Africa has the main aim to provide subsidized and donated technology products and services to society organizations in West Africa. And the program enables nonprofit organizations to sustainably achieve their social mission with greater impact using technology. We are in an era of digital transformation, and everything around us revolves around technology and using digital tools. And we are not just following the crowd, but how do we ensure that we are up to the game and the standard when it comes to technology adoption and it comes to impact within the nonprofit sector? What are the benefits that we can receive using those products available? The technology program facilitates society organizations access to software and other ICT solutions. It offers discounted rates of up to 95% of the market value, sometimes 100% of the market value. So you go away with free or low-cost applications that help you to manage and maintain your productivity and security. It helps you to focus your resources where it matters most, because then you are able to offset the cost of technology from your operational budget, as Oyebisi just referred or alluded to, so that you can put your resources where it matters in achieving your social impact. Using technology that are technology applications that are authenticated and genuine enable you to boost your productivity in a safe environment, because then you are able to protect yourself from hackers, from corrupt files, from crashing your system, from losing your data, and a whole lot of issues that come with using cracked versions or cracked application. They seem enticing and they seem appealing by the fact that you are not disbursing any cost, but the long-term cost or exposure is very high comparatively to using applications that are subsidized and donated. And those applications also facilitate teamwork and collaboration and help you to reduce physical efforts. A lot of the paperwork that we've been doing over time can be maximized if we are able to leverage technology in a very efficient manner. Some of the products available on our catalog. So when you go to westafrica.techsoup.global and you click on the catalog menu, you have a host of applications that are directly donated on the platforms. So what you can see here are applications that are donated, and then we also have other services that are accessible through the validation service that we offer. So for instance, Google Workspace, formerly called Google Suites, is one of the benefits you have when you are validated through the Techsoup platform. So just randomly, I could see the Adobe Suite, you have Slack, you have Amazon Web Service, Asana, which is a project management suite of application, Bitdefender for antivirus, DocuSign, Microsoft Cloud and on-premise application, Tableau, and then Zoom, among other applications and services that we offer. So we offer services like email migration. If you are migrating from one server or from one cloud service to another, we provide support to migrate. We offer cloud consult. If you do not have all the understanding that is required on what the cloud is, you engage with us. We have free conversations to support you. We can also assist organizations to complete their Microsoft nonprofit registration to benefit from cloud applications and many more. So when we are talking about donation or discount model, for a typical Microsoft Office application, right, which is currently on the market at $439, when you come and you are authenticated as a nonprofit organization, you will go away with one license for $52. This is significant cost saving of at least $387 per person, assuming you have a staff base of at least 20 or 30 staff members. You go away with much more resources that can be used to support your organization. And the same discount model applies to Bitdefender, where you are saving close to $63 per license. And with Bitdefender, this is a model that applies to 3 users. So for this license, you can set up the same application for 3 computers, right? And then Windows OS, Windows operating system genuine, you are saving at least close to $185. We really encourage organizations to subscribe to those products and to have them installed on their application. But for instance, for Microsoft, they have recently issued an announcement that coming April 2022, they are phasing out all the on-premise applications that we have known. So they will no longer be available through a direct sale on the market. So for instance, the Microsoft Office and the Windows, so all those beautiful applications that you have known will no longer be available as standalone product. You can only access them if you have the complete Office 365 package, which is cloud-based, from which you'll be able to do the download, the installation. So if you want to still have the benefit of the on-premise product, we encourage you to hurry and to get those donations before they go away. So now to Office 365, you have different options for Office 365. Some of them come at no cost at all, and others are heavily subsidized. So if you are going for what is now termed as Microsoft 365 Business Basic, it does not come with any cost, it's free of charge. The only difference with the other options is that that is cloud access only. So you can access your email, you can access Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and other applications without having the opportunity or the option to work on your Word document, for instance, on the desktop. But then if you want to have that extra benefit of using desktop application in a seamless transition with the cloud, whilst it is still synchronized to your data, you can go for the business premium, which is at so you have currently the licensing for business premium we have two options. We have what we call Microsoft 365 Business Standard, which is $3 per user per month. And now we have the Microsoft 365 Business Premium, which is currently for $5 per user per month. So those options are available, and you are saving at least $12 per user per month on your budget. And I will spare you the enterprise because not many organizations do have the size and capacity to get that. And other services, as I mentioned, we offer IT consultancy and advisory for the nonprofits because we are within the space, we understand our language. We offer Office 365 deployments and domain name redirection. We support in installing applications like Office 2019. It's very complex and it requires command prompts to install. And other debugging service. We offer email migration, web design and development, and online courses. So if you want a website that is reflecting of the beauty of your organization, or you do not have a website, kindly get in touch with us and we can assist you. Who is eligible for those offers? So we have non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, public libraries. We have community-based organizations, associations, networks, and coalitions. And then our process to register is to go to westafrica.techsoup.global. You click on the sign up button that you see to the right and to the top right corner of the page. Then you complete the registration of your organization and you make the request for your donation, and that is it. If you face any challenge, kindly reach out to us at techsoup@waxy.org, and we'll be glad to assist you. So this is a breakdown of the process, which I've already summarized for you. And then our donor partners, you have Microsoft, Tableau, Zoom, Box, Bitdefender, Autodesk, DocuSign, Amazon, Asana, Google, and Adobe, and many more. So gradually we continue to receive many more donors and partner supporters for this program. So you can reach out to us at techsoup@waxy.org, and these are our phone numbers, and the website is westafrica.techsoup.global. Thank you very much for being with us, and we'll be glad to receive your queries, your comments and questions, and to receive your requests. Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you very much, Frank, for that presentation. Very interesting one and also very explanatory. I think we have some questions on the chat box there. Raymond asked, what goes into the web design?
Okay, thank you very much, Raymond. It could be a bit of an exercise to expatiate on it, but basically what we do is that we offer support to organizations. So for instance, if you do not have a domain name for your organization, we can assist you to secure a domain name. And then we can provide you, depending on the type of service you want, including the security and the hosting, we can refer you to host of your domain. And then we can actually carry on the development of the website for you to help you have a very beautiful, appealing, and attractive website that responds to your mission and respond to your mandate with all the information, the pictures, the interaction, the videos, and so on and so forth, with integration of social media. So we have different options or different offers that we have, whether you want integration, how responsive you like the website to be, how many pages you would like to integrate into the page, and so on and so forth. So these are things that we can discuss if you send your request. We are trying to formalize it and make it available on the website, but in the meantime, any organization that comes now can have a special discount as we are getting started. Thank you.
All right, fine. Thanks for that. And also, someone also asked Mabel, are these packages also available to individuals or they are only for CSOs?
Thank you very much, Mabel. The value of these services is to ensure that those who have embarked onto a nonprofit or social impact mission have the support they need or deserve to be able to change lives in communities. So it's not really for individuals or private purposes or government purpose. It's mostly for those who have a social mission, those who are legally registered and have the mandate to pursue a social mission. So this goes for nonprofit organizations in their different forms and shapes.
Great, thank you, Frank, and also thanks for providing answers to those questions that were asked. And like you rightly mentioned, the notes or slides to the presentations that we gave, and that of also Benga session, I can say that my participants are already asking for the presentation. Those presentations will be shared. So I can also assure you that those presentations will be shared with you, and so that you get an in-depth understanding or view of what we discussed so far. And as a final remark, Frank, what would you consider as a conducive environment for non-profit organizations? Talking from your experience, what do you consider as a conducive environment for non-profits?
Thank you very much. So just simply put, a conducive digital space or environment is one where you are very comfortable when you open your space. You want to make your space look like a place that you want to stay in for the day or the time that you have to work. So it's quite comfortable, it's maintained in a very clean and tidy manner, and it facilitates retrieval of information. It's an environment that does not expose you to a lot of challenges, where you do not always have to call the IT person from the office to assist you over phone to fix your computer, and you are not facing issues or breaches with your firewall. So you really want a situation whereby you have a functional running hardware and applications that are well set up, and all the backups, all the security, all the maintenance are done in a very seamless manner, where you are not struggling with troubleshooting and so many challenges that interfere with your work. It's a space where you are able to deploy your creativity, you are able to use your skills, your knowledge, your capacity to the full extent. You have access to the resources that you need, like the internet. You can collaborate with your team members to generate ideas and to tap into the creative space that you have to be able to perform your work without any hindrance, without any disturbance or challenges. That, for me, is what a conducive environment is.
Thank you very much, Frank, for that. And someone is also showing appreciation here, Al-Hazan, saying that I want to share that we benefited from the software and hardware donation from Techsoup and Waxy. We are grateful to the team. Any parting word from Benga's session? Benga session is there. Any parting word from you?
Okay, Timothy. So Benga unfortunately left us, but he left us with a good note.
Okay.
So his final word to us is for us to stay safe online, and feel free to use the toolkit at www.ayete.africa. You will share the website on the chat box for us to also connect again. So that is the final word from Benga.
Great. So over to you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you, Timothy. Mr. Frank, before we close, we would like you to also give us your final remarks and message to all the participants who join us today.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you, Timothy, and thanks to Benga, with whom I have shared the platform this afternoon. Thanks to all the participants who made it for this very interesting conversation. And so this is part of our drive as an organization to ensure that nonprofit organizations have the support, have the resources and the guidance that they need to be effective, to be productive, and to be secure, whether working remotely or working in the office. So we are in a dispensation where digital is critical to ensure that we are able to deliver to the maximum of our ability and our capacity. As nonprofit organizations, there are lots of challenges that we face for issues pertaining to financial resources, to technical capacity, and just because of the work that we do, we are sometimes the target of certain threats and certain intimidation. So we need to ensure that we have the level of protection and security. We are able to adapt to the situations that we are facing. We are flexible and we are also creative to deliver the optimum deliverable or output for the communities that we are serving. For us to be up to the call that rests on us to serve the community and bring about change within our environment, we need to make sure that we are technology ready and that we are embracing the changes around us to be able to meet those challenges and those standards around the table for digital transformation, for development, and for social impact. So we want to encourage everyone, let's work together in our various capacities and put our intelligence together to ensure that civil society around us feel empowered and have the resources and the support to be excellent in their work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And like you said, we are now in a digital environment, so we need to ensure that we are digitally safe, flexible, and technology ready. And like Begma also said, let's stay safe online. And please, let's use the toolkit he shared with us at ayete.com. On this note, I would like to express my appreciation to you, Mr. Frank Sombo, and also Begma for the wonderful presentation and the message you shared with us on productivity during a remote working environment. And to all the participants who joined us today, thank you so much for the time you spent with us, for your questions and the contribution you gave us. And thank you also, my co-moderator, Timothy, for making this session a very beautiful one. I would also like to thank Workspace team also for putting together this session and also helping all of us to learn together. I think until then, we'll meet again for another beautiful session, which you should expect from us very soon. But you will say have a beautiful rest of the day. If it's still evening at your end, have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful afternoon, and see you another day. Bye for now.
Bye.
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 Thank you, OABC.